All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you coming to this call meeting. Good attendance for a meeting that we hadn't planned on having, but obviously need to have. Let me go ahead and start us with the ethics statement. Board members, Mr. President, and financial administrative staff, you are reminded that you have a duty to avoid all conflicts of interest, potential conflicts of interest, and appearances of conflicts of interest. Do any of you know or anticipate any conflict of interest, potential conflict of interest, or appearance of conflict of interest regarding the matters on the agenda for today's meeting? No. Very good. Let me just reflect no conflicts were reported. We will move forward from here. First of all, roll call. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, roll call. I forget that half the time. I'm sorry. Carol.
Wayne Bergman, Joe Roman,
Here.
Mike Pryor,
Here.
Richard Curley,
Here.
John Locke,
Here.
Kay Myers, John Brown, Francis Ramsey, Nathan Ramsey,
Here.
Marina Rice, Ray Spells,
Here.
Andy Stone, and David White.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All righty. First thing I'd like to do is, well, first of all, before I even do that, we have a visitor, or a guest, I guess I should say, as of our next meeting will be one of our board of trustees, Roger Metcalf. I think you probably have all either met Roger or have known him for many years, but I just wanted to acknowledge that he's here and kind of to see what it is that he's getting himself into very shortly. So, anyway, thank you for being here, Roger. We appreciate you being willing to serve on the board. We look forward to working with you. And next, we'd like to, if we could, David, would you join us up front? We got, we just wanted to say thank you to David for many, many years of service to the Board of Trustees here at AB Tech. And what we have is a plaque presented to David White in appreciation for loyal and dedicated service as trustee of AB Tech Community College, 2003 to 2015. So that's a good long period of time. We just wanted to say thank you so much for everything you've done. And hope you enjoy your retirement for your next one. Last week that we would be having a new board of trustee member by the name of Bruce Briggs. I've not had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Briggs. He is a former judge for Madison County, and he'll be joining us hopefully in our next meeting. So,
any good things to say?
Yeah. I certainly have enjoyed this. It's a good experience. And a lot of opportunity to meet some different folks. And I will carry on with.
okay, let's move on to the business at hand, resolution and action items, and I am going to turn it over to Dr. King to move us forward from here.
Thank you. I thought I'd start by giving you an overview of this year's state budget. One more, David. There we go. Okay. Everything went quite nicely this year because we had $39.196 billion. Of course, that came as a result of the last good year of enrollment that we had. We are projecting this year, and this is a figure that's coming from the system office right now, 37.4. So you can see the difference between these two numbers. And what we have had to do is take out those items that you see in here from the budget of the year that we are finishing, so as to come up with this number. And that number is not finalized yet. The state hasn't, the Senate and the House have not agreed on a budget yet, although we hope it will happen before the 30th of the month. And if it does, we'll be able to actually process real numbers. But this is the best we can see right now, 37.4 for the upcoming year. The way we balance the budget between the figure from this year and the figure for the upcoming fiscal year is by taking out 11 full-time positions. And you'll see, David, if you can roll it up, you'll see the specific positions that we replaced, or we took out of the table of organization right here. These are a total of 16.2 positions that we removed from the table of organization. Again, bring it up if you would, David. We also added 5 positions, which gave us the total of 20. Now if you can go back to the state budget, 11.2 positions rather that have been eliminated. That is this $760,000 figure here. The reduction in operating budgets for all of the departments is here. We have given them, as of this point, a 2% cut in whatever they had this year. So you can figure if you had a budget of $60,000, you were going to get 2% less than that for the upcoming year. I guess my math would say 58.8 would be what you would be getting this year. That's the place at which we will balance the budget now if there are further cuts in the ultimate budget that we receive. We would have to take more out of the operating budgets of the various departments. And of course, this number was we removed because they were one-time requests for this fiscal year that we were able to take out. Now, Dave, if you can go beyond that list, I want to take you into the county operating budget for the year for this year. We had this year a total of $8.4 million from Buncombe County. That came in these amounts up in through here. In addition, we got rent from various people, mostly at the ENKA properties, that added up to $240,000. And this figure is kind of a tough one for me to explain, but I'm going to see if I can do it. I'm going to read it to you because I can explain it easier. Surplus dollars in the state budget for last year, for the year we're completing, which must be reverted to the state on the 30th of June 2015, were used to reimburse the county budget for the 7% supplement paid to our employees throughout the year. So we used state dollars to reimburse that 7% that we had paid from the county to the county budget. This reimbursement totaled that $586,000 number you see there. And because the college does not revert county funds at the end of the year, they added to our fund balance. And so we are projecting right now a fund balance for this year, right here, $1.43 million. And the largest chunk of that comes from up here, from that 7% supplement that we essentially charged the state and gave the money back to the county budgets. Okay, can you keep rolling?
Am I the only one who doesn't understand that?
Okay, let me,
I just don't, because you're listing it as a positive, it looks like to me it ought to be taken away from that somewhere.
it is taken away from the county, from the state. It was taken away from the state, and that way I don't have to give it back to the state. Let me try it another way. The state is authorized to pay 100% of salaries.
Right.
Over the years, AV Tech has had a tradition of paying 93% of the salaries from state dollars and 7% from county dollars. Now remember, state dollars at the end of the year have got to be reverted. County dollars do not. So when we had a potential surplus at the end of this fiscal year in state dollars, I had a choice. I could return it to the state, or I could spend it. And I decided to spend it. Now, how am I spending it? I took that money, 586,000 of it, and gave it to the county budget as I'm authorized to do. That reduced the state budget by 586,000, but it also added to our surplus in the county, and that surplus in the county now is 1.443. So if everything goes the way we expect it is, and nothing changes between now and the end of the fiscal year, we will start the fiscal year with $1.443 million left over in the county funds. And it's principally because of the 586,000, almost 600,000 that we were able to give back to the county because we had surplus in state dollars.
I think maybe it's not that it got given back to the county, it got it stayed as a county revenue that was unexpended, so Dennis gets to roll it forward into the next year. Does
Right.
that answer it? It didn't go back to
It
the
doesn't go back to
county.
the county.
No,
Correct.
Dennis means the
county
county's
line.
budget within AV.
Exactly, thank you for that, thank you for that. Yeah, we're not giving the dollars to the county itself. There is no requirement to do that. We put it in what we're calling a fund balance of this fiscal year. And that's where we are right now with our fund balance.
And will we see that number anywhere else?
You're going to see a utilization of it in a few minutes.
Okay.
Keep rolling, Dave. Thank you. You can go beyond this. Okay. Now, a little bit higher, please. Okay. This is what we asked the county for. This is what we've been given. And so our challenge was to make up the difference. We are doing that by these numbers in here. Dr. Locke, you just asked if you'd see that number again.
That's
What
part
you're
of it.
seeing right here is 1.2 of the 1.4. And what we've now got is, at this point, we have got about $200,000 in a fund balance, because the rest of the fund balance that I just showed you, we are spending to make this budget. So again, we're right now sitting on what would be about a $200,000 fund balance. If we had an emergency, we would need
That's
that
all,
money
that's
for
all we
those
have.
kinds of things.
That's all the cushion that we have.
Yeah, yes. Okay.
Color reserves or whatever, that's all.
Yeah.
That's not much.
All right, what we've got here is the rest of the cuts, which I am putting in the budget. We're taking 60,000 out of security. We're taking 200,000 out of physical plant positions that we will not fill. For example, when a groundskeeper leaves us in October and we don't need to mow grass, we'll probably not fill that position until April or so. And that would give us this kind of savings that we're anticipating. There will be some other positions in maintenance that we will not fill. The other two lines right here are other cuts that we are making in our physical plant and other county expenses to balance the budget. That brings us to the top line up here. very regrettably, and I mean that as sincerely as I can say it, I see no alternative but to close the Haynes Tower at the ENKA campus. And I am recommending that to you. I'm recommending it as a phase one in an ultimate, in a phase one. I believe, and we have been working on this, Shelley White has been diligently working on this since the idea came up. We have taken the total cost of running the ENKA campus, 1.3, I believe the number is, 1.3 million. We split it in half because there are two major buildings out there. And we then acknowledged that it would, the savings would only be 3 of the 4 quarters of the fiscal year, because I cannot shut the campus down on the first, or the Haynes Tower, beg your pardon, the Haynes Tower down on the first day of the fiscal year. I'm going to need 90 days to do that. So this number represents half of the cost of running the campus for 3 quarters. Thank you, for 3 quarters. And when you add up all of these, we will be able to balance the budget, taking 1.2 million of our reserve for this year. So the first recommendation that I have for you is that I would like permission to close the Haynes Tower by the 30th of September of this year. That's the end of the first quarter. There are 3 major renters in there right now. Every one of them has either a 30, a 60, or a 90-day notice. There's one that has a 90-day notice. So if we make the decision today to close the facility at the end of September, we will be within the window of everybody's notice. In addition, the Technology Commercialization Center, which is the second building on the campus out there, has space in it, renovated space. We're not talking about unrenovated space, because you've told me clearly you do not want to spend any more money on the Technology Commercialization Center. So we are not talking about renovating anything, but our 3 renters will be offered the opportunity to be moved by our people from the Haynes Tower into the Technology Commercialization Center if they choose to go there. The question will be how long we would be holding on to the Technology Commercialization Center. And I think that's a separate question to talk about later. So again, what I'm proposing to you is closing the Haynes Tower by September 30th, and I'm asking your permission to do that.
Dennis, what's the prospect of them taking our offer to move across the way there at the other building? Are we 100% sure, 90% sure?
I talked to the executive director of RISA, which is one of our renters out there. She said that that would be an option for them, but she would prefer not moving twice. In other words, moving into the TCC and being there for a period of time and then having to move elsewhere. So right now, her desire is to find a different home for RISA, a different permanent home. The others, I think, is quite good. We've got a contract with Department of Human Resources, and we have to do training for them and office space. That adds up to about $60,000 a year, and I would love to hold on to that by moving them into the TCC. They have not been approached yet. I have given a warning to the executive director of RISA that this conversation would be occurring today. I haven't had a conversation with her, so she knows. The other 2 renters out there do not know.
And those 3 renters, like you said, those 3 renters account for how they split a monetary income?
The better part of that 240 that we were talking about a while ago, yeah, the 240,000. 60,000 of it is one of them alone.
The Haynes building is about 100,000, so between the three current occupants in Haynes, it's about $100,000 of rental income.
And then the other thing we need to think about is when you talk about closing the technical center over there, is what happens to the incubator and all that.
That's in the TCC.
Right.
Yes.
The point is we can't lose that. I don't think that's a legal viable part of what we do as a technical college.
If the board agrees, I'd like to deal with that as a separate issue because
Put it on the radar screen.
because it is, as Richard is pointing out, much more complicated to close down the TCC. The occupants of the Haynes Tower are the three renters that I just mentioned, and Shelley said that that's about $100,000 in rent. The other occupants are our continuing education staff, and there is one academic program left out there. But we have found places on this campus, and this is what I was saying a while ago when I said Shelley's been working diligently. We have found places on this campus here for everything that the college runs in the Haynes Tower, not for the renters, but for everything we run there. It will require us to keep the daycare, to clean it up, to paint it, to give it an adult finish, and use it. But we can, in fact, cover everything that's out there on this campus, rather. Other questions?
I know you say that I'm looking at the information you provided, and it says the list of income property for sale as soon as practical. Does that, as soon as practical, include giving these TCC folks additional time? I'm wondering, let me back up. I came today prepared to authorize the sale of the income property. Without the, as soon as practical, I think that's built into it. But if we still have the incubators there and we're moving people in, are we going to bind ourselves in some way with obligations that are going to be greater than the ability to get rid of this property? Let's say we put it on the market tomorrow and 2 days later somebody makes an offer. Then we've got to go through this whole process again with those tenants, which causes me some concern that we may be misleading them somehow if we aren't very clear. I understand what you're trying to do, but I think that in order to be fair to us, which is my first priority, we need to be more firm about what we're going to do with the TCC, and we ought to put those people on notice that their occupancy is short term.
Yeah. As part of what I hope is the resolution on closing the Haynes Center, you could direct me not to move any of the renters over into the TCC, thereby implying some kind of a continuation over there. And that
What
would be
is our
fine. We wouldn't do
obligation to
that.
the current occupants of TCC?
It varies.
Do we have a 90-day notice to them as well?
The small business incubator has got various contracts with the people who are in there. I think there are 20 some odd companies that are in there right now. And we've got different obligations with them. To be honest with you, I have not looked into every one of those. What I'm trying to do now is balance the budget. And I can do that if you allow me to close the Haynes Center this fiscal year. I'm not planning on doing anything with the TCC this fiscal year, but I do agree with you, its future is the,
If I
trying to get out of there.
If I could just say one thing, the selling or otherwise disposing of the property at ENKA will be a very time-consuming and very detailed and difficult process. It's not as simple as put it on the market tomorrow. Matter of fact, AV Tech does not even own the ground underneath some of the buildings out there. So, I mean,
TCC.
the TCC, 11 acres actually. So it is going to be a very long process to get this done. I think far beyond any period, in any small incubator's notice period, to be able to get through the legal entanglements to dispose of this property.
But to sell the Haynesville is an independent activity, it seems to be pretty straightforward, is it not?
If we were fortunate enough to find a buyer for the Haynes Center, but I'm not sure that that's gonna happen. I think that we may want to sell all the property out there together in one piece. There's 37 acres out there. And so we might not go on the market for a period of time.
Because there is a difference in our terminology. We talk about closing the Haynes Center, that's
Yes.
one thing.
Yes.
Selling is another thing.
Yes.
So what we're trying to do today is to close, officially close them.
So that I can save $540,000.
This resolution has the sale on there as well.
Yeah.
That's what I read. I read that I was coming to discuss all of that.
Well, you are. I mean, that's going to be part of the discussion, but
If you do things close and somebody comes with an offer, but the best offer is you can take the 37 acres and basically put it together and move one track instead of breaking it down in two tracks. I don't know if it come out more money, I think. If somebody decided they wanted to do industry and they know it's a brownfield, okay, under that building, and once they figure out what a brownfield is, which is probably already been done, then you get the previous owner to sign off on it. Then you have a total package. You're saying 11 acres of it out of 37 acres. So you still got enough acres, but you don't want it to sell here and then hit the building and be able to sell the frontage. You want to, I'd say sell it as a package.
And we're having that discussion about, I mean, it is a brownfield, portion of the property is brownfield, having a discussion of, there are tax credits, there are all kinds of things going on. And I mean, the statute's very specific as to how to dispose of college property. First, you have to offer to the county commissioners, offer to the state board, rather. And so this is not something that happens overnight. And they will not want to buy it off the state board, does not care about funding this property, but the statute requires that.
One thing I do understand is one agreement is having to appraise now. County managers have.
That building or that property?
That building and the property, that building sets on everything, that property is center line.
So it doesn't include the.
You can't because we don't own that building.
No, we do own the building.
We own the building. We own the building, but not the land.
Yes. Yeah.
So you said that the Haynes Center, the 11 acres under, is the parcel being appraised?
No, the TCC is on the 11.
No, my understanding is, I'm not aware of what the county manager is doing, but if there's an appraisal going on, it's probably happening at the Haynes Center, correct? Yeah, that's the building that is owned outright by the college.
And the 11 acres?
Is over at the TCC, that's underneath the TCC building.
Who owns the land that the Haynes Tower sits on?
we do.
The board,
We just don't know the land on the TCC.
Maybe
And would you define for me in today's terms what the term you use, brown, means in today's terms?
Yeah, it's a vast act called CERCLA. It's a vast environmental act, and there was some contamination to that property. The prior owner underneath the TCC building, which there are well monitors there now, is being remediated with a remediation plan from North Carolina and NEPA. That property is owned by BASF, the underground property. We own the building on top. So in order to totally dispose of that property, there are several hoops to jump through because of the environmental issue. You call a brownfield as a technical term for an area that is currently has some environmental contaminants located there. So BASF currently owns it, is currently doing the remediation. Depending upon how what they agree to do, what AV Tech wants to do with that property. There could be a variety of ways to dispose of it. But those are conversations that's going to happen with BASF, and they've got to decide what they want to do with it.
Mr. Chair, I think the simple thing, and I apologize for being confused, the simple thing is to change the action item that was sent to us. The action item says, the Board of Trustees approves closing the Haynes and Technology and listing the property for sale. I think we need to just say we're dealing with the Haynes property, and if we do that, it's clearer, it's to the point, and it gets us out of this rest of this discussion, which I think is probably premature.
Yes. I would say so.
Mr. Chair, could I be recognized for a motion at the appropriate time? And what I would propose the motion to say is the Board of Trustees would close the Haynes Center by September 30th. That we will explore possible disposition of the Technology Commercialization Center with the understanding that the tenants and the uses of that property there will be a transition in place for them, and that we're not going out of those businesses, and we're going to still provide those services. So we're going to provide the space somewhere, but we've got to come up with a transition plan, and that ultimately that the ENKA property will be listed for sale after all of that due diligence and that time has elapsed. And I make that motion with understanding, this is not a knee-jerk reaction to a short-term budget crisis. I think it's more of a strategic decision that is not, it's not really pleasant for me because I know the county's invested a lot of money in that property, and that property's been put to a very good use. But Western Carolina moved out of that site several years ago, and it's worked out well for them to be at Biltmore Park, and we lost a big tenant there. And at some point in time, we've got to decide, is that site something that we can continue to invest money in and to use it for the benefit of the college, or would we be better starting from scratch? And so I think we've come to the conclusion that we need to stop investing significant dollars to keep that property operating, and it would be more cost effective over the long term to either find a different space for that to work. So
And I think that mirrors what came out of our executive committee. We basically didn't, my memory says we didn't say in the executive committee we were going to close both buildings. We said the Haynes building.
That's why I was referring to it.
It's not accurate.
Well, that's what I said. That's all I had.
That's why I was referring to it as phase one of the activity. Ultimately, phase two will be shutting down the TCC, but it's going to be much more complicated. Probably will not happen this fiscal year because of the complications.
We have to take care of the people who are there.
I'd like to request, I'd second your motion if you split them into two. The first one dealing just with the Haynes building, and then the second one dealing with the other process.
and I would not be opposed to your.
I think that would make it easier. And I would second the first motion, which is to close the Haynes building.
Is that a revised motion?
I would accept his modification to that's the revised motion, Mr. Chairman.
Did we have a second? Thank you. We're trying to second, okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, I had
The first motion, thank you.
I attended a meeting with the Haynes building earlier today, not a Haynes Tech meeting, but Haynes Tech meeting, but a meeting with Resupposed. That was the day that the Superintendent's Council invited all the old superintendents for lunch. And I was there, and this was a topic that we were concerned of the meeting. I just don't think, and I can't speak for them, I just listened, that they would be interested in moving into another architect facility and to move again, like you said. But my opinion on this, that's a fine facility out there. The Haynes building may be expensive, but Ingles is making a big investment right across the street, building a
store. That's a popular area right now. I think what AB Tech needs to do is to be a little creative and see how we can use those buildings. You know, the incubators, take ADL Technologies, came out there, getting ready to hire 90 more high-dollar employees. I think we need that. We got no room on this campus to go anymore. And I would be opposed to closing and selling those buildings.
I would submit the motion that I presented earlier is not to say we're going out of the small business incubator space. I think we've discussed, we do have capital money. And one of the disparities we have is we've got all this capital money and we're being forced to make cuts right now because of our operating money. And so, and I'll take responsibility for it. When I was a county commissioner, we invested, I think, close to $7-8 million at the time of, from 2000 to 2008, when I was a county commissioner, trying to upgrade and renovate those facilities. And I think if we were going to continue to keep ENKA, we're going to have to continue to invest more money. And I think the question is, would you be better to start with a more functional space? And it's a very nice facility, but I certainly don't support us getting out of the incubation effort. And what you mentioned about ABL Technologies and other companies, we need that. That's an important part of what the college is doing. So I don't perceive this motion is going against that, and actually it's helping us to get to a better place.
And I've noticed a number of these community colleges down there, they've got a sign up down their way, maybe getting into this advanced manufacturing, and talked a little bit of that before the meeting. I think we need to be in that. We need to provide training for folks that get jobs and encourage folks to come to this area and vote again. They've got to have training. I think that's too good of a facility, and land is hard to come by now. Buildings are expensive, so I'll be quiet. It's my last meeting anyway, but I cannot vote for it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So noted.
Okay.
Now, your second motion.
The second part of that motion would be to close the Technology Commercialization Center as soon as practical and to provide alternate space suitable for the tenants of that facility, and to include our small business incubator, and to list the ENKA property for sale as soon as practical.
Excellent. Motion.
I guess I'm struggling a little bit with, I think we're on the same page philosophically, but I go back to what Dave was talking about. We've got to have some kind of training facility. What I heard the motion say was that we're going to close the TCC, whatever.
Yeah, TCC.
We're going to close that. My concern would be just close it. We've got to make, to me, the motion needs to say, but we're going to have a space before we close and sell it all out. We've got to have a space to retain the integrity of the programs we're offering.
And that was the intent of my motion, and if I did not make that clear, that's why I said to close technology commercialization with a plan in place to replace what we're doing at Forest Action. So we can't close TCC until we've got a viable option to respond to that.
To include space and all that, to where we don't lose anything that we've currently got. And still, to Dave's point, still offer the technology training that's going to be required, because that is a very valuable piece of land. But we got to have training.
And if y'all remember, when we were talking about the strategic plan or long-range planning, that we decided as a board that we did not want to put any more money into the ENKA campus, that we would rather be looking for a south campus and put all of our efforts into a South Campus versus spending money there and plus doing South Campus too.
If this,
You lose the reminder there too.
if this motion passes, I would like to work with the county manager to identify 2 projects that are lower down on our master facilities plan to move them up. One of them would be purchase of a piece of property in South County that could become our small business incubator, as well as other things. And the second thing would be to renovate the Ivy building. I think you all know the Ivy building. It's the gymnasium-looking structure up there behind the new Allied Health Workforce Development building. It's an old Gothic-looking building. Everybody with me here? I would like to renovate that for a home for our brewing, distillation, fermentation program. There is some work that has to be done there, but I think anybody who's been around a while remembers what this building over here looked like once upon a time. And we put $2 million into turning it into what it is today. I really firmly believe that we can make the Ivy building as much of a showcase for our brewing, distillation, fermentation programs as this building is, with renovations. So I would not, and again, this is following Nathan's motion perfectly, I would not be willing to close down the TCC until those 2 projects were ready to move people into, the small business incubator and the brewing program.
Well,
I wonder about the saying appropriate structure and placement for brewery versus saying it's X. If X ends up structurally is not, you know what I'm saying? Well, it's like tying ourselves to its Ivy or nothing. And I know that's a great plan and hope it works. But if the engineers come back and say, we absolutely can't put a brewery there because of weight, do we want to tie ourselves to that versus the same point with the PCC, which is we want the most appropriate plan moving forward that continues to honor our commitment.
Let me respond. I don't want those 2 things that I just shared with you in the motion. I like Nathan's motion just the way it is. What I'm sharing with you is the possibility that we've identified the Ivy building as a gym. We have had one engineer in there, and he said we can reinforce this floor such that we can put the brewing program in there. All I really want to do is go along with Nathan's motion to allow me to start talking to the county manager about moving those 2 projects higher up in priority so that we can take care of those people as soon as possible. Or another way of putting it is to get out of the TCC as soon as possible.
And can I provide some clarity? What I intended was everything that's currently being provided in Technology Commercialization Center, that we would come up with a plan that would allow for a transition for them to go somewhere else. And until that happens, you know, I'm certainly not going to vote to close Technology Commercialization, because I think the worst headline that can come out is the AV Tech board votes to close the small business incubator or anything else, and that is not what we're doing. We're trying to find the most cost-effective, most efficient space for what we have, and we do have lots of capital money that is uncommitted, a part of our strategic plan, that we can decide how is the best way to go forward. And and I guess the bottom line decision though is, did we want to continue to invest money in INKA campus, understanding how much money we've already invested in comparing a greenfield or a different type of space.
Did that motion get a second?
No.
We've had a lot of discussion with this. That's okay.
And that's why I wanted them separate, Mr. Chair, because I think that I had some of the same concerns that other folks have articulated. And I heard in Mr. Ramsey's motion answers to all of the concerns that were raised, because he talked about with planning and all of that. So I think that it encompasses it. And I guess I've got to second it then.
The one thing that I have to say, that more money in ENKA, which there is more money available through the quarter-cent sales tax. It's on the charts that I have. There's basically $6 million. We can utilize that $6 million in something else, plus we have the opportunity to sell what we have and end up a lot better than what we are. That's the way I look at it. I like what he's got. I'll vote for that. We don't want to throw anybody out of anything. This gives us time and some money to be able to find something that works in all perspectives. Even if Ivy don't work up here with the brewery deal, then we can make it work in another thing. So, but
The
it's
important thing to notice up here is that we have not planned in this skeletal budget you're looking at, closing down the TCC this fiscal year. This budget is going through June of 16, and we're anticipating keeping the TCC open for that long.
It sounds like we're all on the same page, even though we're saying different things. I think we're good, so I think we have a motion and a second.
Can we have the motion read back so that I know what clear this
I will try. Second motion is to close the TCC as soon as practical and to provide alternate space for tenants, incubator, and to list property for sale.
As soon as practical.
As soon as practical.
Is that what you had?
Could we say for all tenants, or something
Instead of-
to make it clear that it's the intent, whether it's Blue Ridge Food Ventures, whatever space is out there, that we, certainly if someone doesn't want to move or has other plans and would rather go somewhere else, then that's certainly up to them. But as far as what we're doing, we're going to provide a space so that activity can be viable and continue to prosper before we close technology commercialization.
In other words, we wouldn't close till they built a home.
And to top that off, we would probably need to say programs and tenants. Yeah. Because we have our own programs in there too.
That's right, an academic program.
I don't want to preclude us making a decision that we will prioritize some things, and it may be that we will have to cut something we're doing in there. I mean, that's the real world, that we may not be able to accommodate every tenant that's there. Now, I don't want this motion to lock us into that somehow. I didn't hear it that way originally, but I'm hearing us say now that we want to make sure that everybody in there has someplace to go, and that's not our role, I don't think.
I think we can, as a board, we can undo that at some later point if we need to. So.
Okay, I just don't want us to lock, I don't want to have to come back.
Correct.
And I was thinking about poor Mr. Metcalf sitting there thinking, what am I going to get into? But I don't want to back us into a corner that we can't get out of.
I agree, but I think that decision ought to come back to the board, and we ought to have a discussion, and the board at that time feels like that there's a compelling reason, justification to make a certain decision, we can do that, but that should come back to the board. It shouldn't be just purely a staff-driven process if that's the decision that's made.
Could Carolyn read the motion?
Okay.
when we have a viable option for them, that's basically do something. If they don't accept it at that time, then the board can make a decision. Right, Nate?
I think so, that's what it might be their counselor to draft a more exact motion.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what's written.
To close the TCC as soon as practical and to provide alternate space for all tenants, the incubator programs, and to list the income property for sale programs and tenants, all programs in the building.
Because I think your purpose was to take the word incubator out and just do all programs and tenants.
We can start listing individual, things like small business incubator, like Blue Ridge Ventures. But, you know, it's better to say all programs and current tenants.
I think it's generally
I mean, the way I understand the motion is that is the intent of this board at this time. That intent can change 2 years from now if facts change. But the intent at this time is to honor all leases or find a space for everyone in that building before you close that building. At this time.
Is that the motion that you would still like to say? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So, thank you.
Okay, the last item on the agenda is this item here. I've shared it with you. I wonder if I've shared it now. Unfortunately, this is not coming up. You've got a copy of this in your packet. These are the data concerning the schools which are presently charging a campus security or parking fee. You'll notice that most of the large schools, there are a total of 33 schools out of 58 who are charging the fee. Larger schools tend to be charging the heavier ones. Central Piedmont in Charlotte is charging that $66 or $88 per semester. Wake Tech, which is the largest community college presently, is charging $50 a semester. So there's a great deal of history behind charging a parking fee, and we are regrettably recommending to you that we charge one of $10 a semester, $20 a year. We have no operating money for the new parking garage. This would give us approximately $160,000 to operate the parking garage, including the elevator, the electric in it, and the rest of the money that we would raise, because the bill would not come to that $160,000 I'm talking about. The rest of the money would be used for campus security. We've done a great deal over the last few years to increase security on this campus, both by adding a police force, which is costing us much more money than the campus security force was. The public enunciation system when we have an emergency, such as a fire or any other kind of emergency. The enunciation system in all of these buildings costs money, and all of that is chargeable by the administrative code back to this parking fee. So we are regrettably recommending to you a $10 per semester parking fee.
With this parking fee, will this be electronic, where you get a sticker or something and the arm goes up when you go
No.
in, or what is?
No, it'll just be charged automatically, like, for example, the student activity fee on the student's bill, and he will be charged that fee. So if his tuition is $1,000, he's going to be charged $1,010, and he'll pay it at the beginning of the semester. Once his bill is paid, and we check on that before we give out parking stickers, once his bill is paid, then we would just give him the sticker.
But he's got something to open the gate.
There is no gate to open. It's a first come, first serve on parking.
So
First
you
come,
could
first
park
serve.
there, maybe realistically, without a parking sticker. If you didn't have a sticker,
You
could
would
still
get
go
a
park,
parking-
but you would get a ticket.
You'd get a ticket, and the student who amasses a number of tickets ends up going to see Terry for disciplinary action. He's our judge.
Just this exclusively for students, or is this a staff requirement as well?
No, it's absolutely for students. I don't want to take on the staff by asking.
Well, it needs to say that, because in no place in the document does it say it's only for students, and,
We can put that in the motion. You know, the truth is that the state has kept tuition low. Tuition this year is right now at $72 a credit hour. It may go up as high as 75, I believe it is, might be 76. But our tuition is very low. And as a consequence of that, we've been given the authority over the years to charge more and more fees. It used to be that the only fee we ever charged was an activity fee. And now, as you know, we charge a technology fee, and that money goes toward running our technology here on campus. This is just another opportunity that the state has given us to charge a fee for parking.
We have a recommendation, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion and second, any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please? That's it here? That's it. Okay, next thing is trustee business, ACCT Leadership Conference, October 14th through 17th. The budget constraints that we have this coming year, it is recommendation, I guess, if you will, to the executive committee that the president and one trustee, which would normally be the chair, but I don't think we know who the chair is going to be at this point. If it does, it would be the cannot go, and otherwise it would be the vice chair or another trustee. In other words, we need to control the budget and just allow the president and one trustee to attend that. I don't know if that's something that we're required to vote on. I guess we just need to understand that as well. We were prepared to vote on it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
So what we wanted to do was find out the interest, and then we determine who that one person's going to be.
I know, I got it.
No apology.
If that was my recommendation at that meeting, then we wouldn't be on that, so sorry. I guess we need to find out the interest level and those that would like to go.
So if you'd like to go,
I'd like to go.
please let Carla know. And if we end up with just two, problem solved. Problem
Cannot
solved.
go?
I cannot go. I have a.
So I couldn't understand your sidebar conversation. Does that mean 3 people could go?
Well, yeah.
Dennis said 2 trustees, my
I
apologies.
just wanted to make sure I understood what y'all was.
I can't keep up with myself with everything else, sorry.
So if you do have desire to go, you haven't expressed that yet, tell Carolyn before you leave, and we'll take it from there.
So is there any restriction on the state meeting in September?
Probably not, no, because our new people have got to be trained there. Dr. Metcalf and a couple others are going to have to go to that meeting to get their new trustee training and their ethics training, all that stuff.
Mr. Ramsey is so excited about that.
No, I was going to say, if you're willing to walk, ride a bike, hop a train, we could have more trustees, we could do a little more cost.
Carpool.
Just carpool.
That's right.
Share a room.
That's right. Supposedly San Diego is very beautiful, so you could probably sweep it out in the park. It would be, I'm sure we'll have some residents there that do that on a
Well,
regular
we would need
basis.
to leave that.
The whole place, yeah.
We're on places straight.
It's low.
Okay, anything else, any new business that we need to talk about? Motion to adjourn. Move to adjourn. Motion to second. All in favor, please say aye.
Thank you, folks. Thank you for being here.